In the heart of 16th century Hausaland, the kingdom of Zazzau stood as a symbol of power, culture, and unity. The tall, fortified walls of the city stretched outward like protective arms, their surfaces carved with intricate Hausa patterns that narrated centuries of history. Within these walls, the bustling city came alive with markets, scholars, and artisans. Zazzau was thriving under the reign of Queen Amina, a monarch as fierce as she was wise. Queen Amina was the first woman to rule Zazzau, breaking the mold of traditional leadership with unwavering confidence. Her legacy had already begun to ripple across Hausaland. As a leader, she was known for expanding the kingdom's territories, forming strategic alliances, and pioneering the construction of defensive walls, later referred to as Ganwar Amina. Amina's physical presence was as striking as her reputation. Her bronze armor, crafted by the kingdom's finest blacksmiths, bore Hausa motifs of interlocking triangles and diamonds, symbolizing strength and protection. Her braided hair, adorned with gold beads, shimmered under the sunlight, a subtle contrast to her ebony skin. She moved with the poise of royalty and the resolve of a warrior. Yet beneath the armor and accolades lay a woman with a deep yearning. As she stood on her palace balcony overlooking the golden expanse of the savannah, a rare vulnerability crept into her thoughts. Could someone so devoted to her people and her crown ever find love? The stars above, distant and indifferent, offered no answers. One quiet afternoon, as the sun cast long shadows over Zazzau's walls, a lone rider approached the gates. The guards, wary of strangers, tightened their grip on their spears. But this man, Idris, dismounted gracefully and addressed them with a calm, confident voice. He was tall, with broad shoulders and an air of quiet authority. His dark blue tunic, embroidered with silver threads, glinted in the light. A flowing agbada draped elegantly over his shoulders, and a well-trimmed beard framed his sharp jawline. His piercing eyes seemed to study everything around him, as though nothing escaped his notice. Idris introduced himself as a merchant and scholar from the kingdom of Katsina, seeking refuge and opportunities in Zazzau. His eloquence and charm quickly disarmed the guards, who escorted him to the palace. When Idris entered the grand hall, Queen Amina's presence struck him like a thunderbolt. She sat upon her throne, her crimson cape cascading down the sides. Her gaze, sharp and unyielding, bore into him as he introduced himself. The atmosphere was electric as Idris spoke of trade routes, military tactics, and ways to fortify the kingdom. Intrigued by his insights, Amina decided to make him an advisor. She was unaware that her decision would set a chain of events into motion, ones that would test her resolve and threaten her kingdom. In the weeks that followed, Idris became an integral part of the palace. His knowledge of diplomacy and military strategy earned him respect, and he quickly gained access to the queen's inner circle. Amina found herself drawn to him in ways she couldn't explain. Their discussions often took place under the sprawling baobab tree in the palace gardens. The air was rich with the scent of jasmine and hibiscus, and the gentle hum of cicadas filled the silence between their words. Idris was unlike anyone Amina had met. His sharp mind matched her own, and his ability to see solutions where others saw problems was refreshing. During one such meeting, Idris suggested a trade alliance with a neighboring kingdom. His arguments were persuasive, and Amina found herself leaning into his advice. Unbeknownst to her, Idris was not what he seemed. He was a spy sent by the Noob kingdom, Zazzau's sworn enemy, with a singular mission: infiltrate the palace, gain the queen's trust, and sow discord. The annual harvest festival was a time of joy and celebration in Zazzau. The streets buzzed with activity. Women in vibrant wrappers carried baskets of fresh produce, musicians played their kora and kalangu drums, and children chased each other, their laughter echoing through the air. Amina walked through the crowd, dressed in an indigo gown adorned with gold embroidery, her presence commanding attention. Idris accompanied her, his dark blue tunic complementing her attire. Together, they looked regal, almost inseparable. That evening, under the glow of lanterns, Idris began to subtly weave his plan. He suggested redistributing troops from key defensive outposts to bolster internal security. His tone was measured, his reasoning sound. Amina, trusting him implicitly, agreed. However, General Rabi, Amina's childhood friend and most loyal ally, noticed the shift. Rabi was a formidable woman, her tall frame and sharp eyes giving her an intimidating presence. She wore indigo armor, her turban wrapped tightly, and carried a spear with an unwavering grip. She began to suspect Idris' true intentions and resolved to uncover the truth. Late one night, as the palace slept, Rabi intercepted a messenger carrying a letter from Idris. The letter, sealed with nupe wax, contained detailed accounts of Zazzau's defenses and vulnerabilities. Rage boiled within her, but so did sorrow. Idris' betrayal was not just a threat to the kingdom, it was a personal betrayal of Amina's trust. The next morning, Rabi confronted Amina in the war room. The evidence was irrefutable. Amina's face betrayed a mixture of disbelief, fury, and heartbreak. She had allowed herself to trust Idris, to care for him, and now that trust was shattered. But Amina was not one to dwell on emotions. With the Nupe army already marching toward Zazzau, she shifted her focus to strategy. She devised a plan so cunning that it would turn the Nupes' overconfidence into their downfall. The Nupe army, led by their ambitious king, advanced toward Zazzau with stolen strategies in hand. Idris' information had emboldened them, but Amina had anticipated their every move. The Nupe forces entered a narrow gorge, believing it to be an easy path to Zazzau's heart. Unbeknownst to them, Amina's army lay in wait on the cliffs above. At her signal, arrows rained down from the cliffs, and massive boulders were released, blocking the exit. The Nupe soldiers, caught off guard, panicked as chaos erupted around them. Amina, clad in her crimson cape and wielding her gleaming sword, led her troops into the fray. She fought with the precision of a seasoned warrior, her battle cry echoing across the gorge. The Nupe forces were decimated, their confidence turned to despair. Meanwhile, Idris, consumed by guilt, had been observing the battle from afar. Unable to bear the destruction he had caused, he disguised himself as a Nupe soldier and infiltrated their supply lines. Setting fire to their wagons of weapons and provisions, he ensured the Nupes' retreat was crippled. After the battle, Idris approached Amina, his face streaked with soot and his eyes filled with regret. He confessed everything, from his mission to his growing remorse. He begged for forgiveness, offering his life in penance. Amina's expression was unreadable. Though she acknowledged his attempt at redemption, she could not overlook the lives lost due to his betrayal. With a heavy heart, she banished him from Zazzau, ensuring he would never return. Zazzau erupted in celebration as Amina and her army returned victorious. The streets were lined with jubilant citizens, drummers playing triumphant beats, and griots singing praises of their queen. Amina, though victorious, felt the weight of her experiences. That night, under the baobab tree, she gazed at the stars, reflecting on the pain of betrayal and the strength it took to overcome it. She resolved to remain steadfast for her people and her legacy. Her story, one of courage, wisdom, and resilience, would be sung by griots for generations, ensuring that the warrior queen's name would never be forgotten.